Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. WildMax1 here, bringing another Raid Shadow Legends video. And this is going to be the official Siege game mode guide for my channel. This has been requested by a lot of you. Thank you for your patience as this has been in the making. This is going to cover everything from more basic things like what the different buildings do, all the way to more advanced strategies like matchmaking considerations, whether you should be upgrading your buildings, and then offense and defense strategies. So with that, let's jump right in. So as always, the first thing you should be asking yourself before doing anything in Raid Shadow Legends is, how is this going to help progress my account? And for Siege, there's two primary reasons. The first being a free Void Legendary that you can earn from this game mode, Authortrix Lammasu. Lammasu is a turn meter booster. She's a block buffs champion. She is as good in the arena as she is in PvE encounters. She's on some of the highest performing teams in Hydra, Chimera, and in the arena. And the second is an exclusive gear set from this game mode, and that is the Feral gear set. Now, Feral is a strict upgrade to the Perception gear set, giving it a scaling bonus all the way up to 9 pieces. It is as good in PvE game modes as it is in arena game modes. So now that we know why we're going to be engaging in Siege, let's talk a little bit about the basics. So Siege is going to be taking place every 2 weeks. It's going to be alternating with CVC. So if you have CVC 1 week, the next week expect Siege. You're going to get 2 Sieges per month. This is a full clan game mode, which means that it is going to be cooperative, and you're going to have to be talking to your clan in order to get the best possible results. This is going to be a classic arena-style battle-focused game mode where you're going to be essentially given a fortress that you need to defend, different points on, so it's a point defense style map. Each of those points is going to be having slots where you can put in a preset team, similar to how you put in for 3v3 or for classic arena. Now, we're going to cover this in more detail in just a moment, but for now, know that there are different phases to a siege. During the prep phase, you are going to be setting your defenses, and then when you're actually in the battle phase with the opposing clan, you are no longer going to be interacting with your own defense teams. Those are already set and done. The only thing you're going to be interacting with is the defense teams that the opposing clan has set up in their fortress. During this battle phase, you're going to be attempting to defeat all of the opposing clan's defenses in different points along the map. Once you've defeated every defense team within a building, that building is considered captured or destroyed, and you will earn victory medals. The clan that earns most victory medals and is able to destroy the opposing clan's stronghold will be declared the victor for that siege. Now, in order to interact with the opposing clan's defense teams in their fortress, every siege, your clan is going to be given a certain number of attack scrolls. Now, you are always going to be given at least enough attack scrolls so that you can attack every single defended position in the enemy fortress. So in this case, right here, you see 90 total attack scrolls for that siege for that clan. You are also going to be given a certain number allocated to you specifically. So that 90 is a total number for your whole clan, and then the 4 right there would be an example of individual attack scrolls that are allocated to you. Once your clan has exhausted all of their attack scrolls, at that point, you are done in the siege in terms of attacking new positions. However, you are also given rematch scrolls along with every attack scroll that you're given. So you're given 1 rematch scroll for every attack scroll that you have. And the rematch scrolls can be used to attack any previously lost battle during the siege. So let's say here with your 4, you won 2 outright, and then you lost 2 in different posts or in different defense teams. So then you could use those rematch scrolls to battle any one of those in any order that you wanted at any time. It doesn't have to be immediately following the battle. And the only other thing that I wanted to cover here for the offense basics for Siege is the champs that you use on your defense teams can, of course, be used for your offense teams. However, there is one limitation to keep in mind, and that is any champion you use on an offensive battle can only be used twice. So if you happen to go in against the team and you lose the first battle, you rematch, you win the second one, all those champions that you just used in those 2 battles will no longer be able to be used for any further attacks in that siege. Luckily now with free regearing, don't forget to switch your gear because the gear is not locked, so you can actually switch that off of a champion and put it onto a new one and still have some good gear that you can continue on using for the rest of your attack scrolls. Just as you're going to be getting attack scrolls, you're also going to be getting defense scrolls. These are going to be used to place teams throughout the fortress in different slots in different buildings. You can increase the total number of defense scrolls that your clan has to work with by upgrading different buildings. However, you should talk to your clan about this before you guys decide to pursue this, and I'm going to discuss why in one of the later sections when we're talking about advanced defense strategies. Now, just as with attacking, there is going to be a limitation for champion use when it comes to defense scrolls, and that is that you can only use a champion once per slot that you invest them into. So when we're talking about different buildings that you can put defense teams into, you're going to have your stronghold, mana shrines, defense towers, magic towers, and then posts. And we're going to get into more detail about each of these as we go along in the video. So now that you know the basics of attack and defense, let's talk a little bit about where those fall in the actual timeline of Siege and talk a little bit about the different phases. So Siege takes place, as mentioned earlier in this video, every 2 weeks. And there's going to be 4 distinct phases, 2 of which are kind of admin, that's matchmaking and results calculation, but prep and battle is where you're going to be actively working with Fortress and attacking the enemy. So if you ever want to check what the actual phase is of Siege, you can obviously just go to your game and check right here down at the bottom, and it's going to show you when it's going to be transitioning into the next phase of Siege. So during the prep phase, that's where you're going to be working with your defense teams. That's where you're going to be setting different defense scrolls and teams in different buildings throughout your fortress. And then once the prep phase is over, then you can no longer interact with your defense teams. Those are set for when you go into the battle phase. And in the battle phase, that's where you're going to be actually using your attack scrolls to take down the enemy fortress. So as you can see from the time allotments, you're going to have by far the most time during the prep phase, where you're going to have 12 days to coordinate with your clanmates for how to best defend your fortress. And then you're going to have 2 days to actually attack and take down the enemy, hopefully stronghold, and earn as many points and beat the enemy clan. For the matchmaking and results calculation phase, you don't really need to worry about those. They're mostly just admin and just take a few hours. But I will say that in order to get matched with an opposing clan and participate in the Siege game mode, you have to have at least 15 members in your clan who have reached level 45 that unlocked it, and then have at least set 1 defense team each. You have to have a minimum of 15 to participate in Siege. So now, in addition to attack scrolls and defense scrolls, there's going to be another kind of resource in Siege, and that's going to be Florins and mana orbs. So Florins are going to be earned anytime you defeat enemy buildings or your teams remain undefeated during your defense of your fortress or time that you capture the enemy fortress. And then you can use those Florins on either upgrading or repairing your own buildings. You will need to repair your buildings if they do get captured during your Siege battle. And for mana orbs, these can be earned from defending buildings, from capturing buildings, and then from mana shrine rebattles, which I'm going to get into later. And then these can be spent on activating bonuses that certain buildings within your fortress have. So now, how do you actually win Siege? How does Raid decide who actually comes out the victor? So as already talked about, 2 conditions. 1 is going to be capturing the enemy stronghold, and 2 is going to be earning more victory medals than your opponent. Victory medals can be earned by successfully defending clan fortress buildings. So for example, if your fortress doesn't get taken, then you're going to have 1,200. If your mana shrines for each of them remain uncaptured, 450, etc. And then at the end, this is all calculated during the results calculation phase, and you'll see this bar here at the bottom, which shows the 2 clans and how many victory medals each of them earned. In the event of a tie for victory medals, there's going to be a tiebreaker. If you see below that, the total defended slots, so this is going to be however many you have remaining at the end of Siege. Whoever has more of those is going to be declared the victor, and if you have, again, a tie at that level, then it's going to turn into victory count. So however many turns it actually took you in order to complete all of your battles during your Siege. And of course, just as you will be receiving points from successfully defending your structures in your fortress against the enemy clan, you're also going to be receiving them for successfully capturing the enemy clan fortress buildings. In addition, and separate from the victory medals, which are just used to calculate the winner within an actual Siege, there's also going to be a type of scoring system that carries over Siege to Siege, and those are going to be your victory points. Now, these are going to be used to determine which tier of Siege you are in, which is then going to be used to determine the rewards that you get and also the difficulty of the opponents that you're going to be facing. And if you're ever curious, you can obviously just click on any building, and there you're going to see the victory medals that you're going to earn for that building remaining uncaptured to the enemy, and you're also going to see the amount of victory points that you would win if you were to capture that during a battle phase. Now, as you can see from the chart that I have right there, as you're going to be going up in tier, you are slowly going to be earning more for every win and then losing more for every loss. You're going to hit an equilibrium of +6 for a win and -6 for a loss once you hit tier 6, and that's going to be where the majority of clans end up. If you are in a very high performing clan, your chances are going to be pushing into tier 7 and tier 8, and some of those have extra special conditions, and you're going to have a very good winning record because you're going to be starting to lose more per loss than you're going to be gaining per win. Now, as an example right here, going from tier 2 to tier 3 in Siege is going to require you to go from 170 total victory points to 380, and it's also going to mean that your rewards are going to be getting better. Instead of being capped at only epic feral gear, you're now going to be eligible for legendary. Now let's take a look at the actual buildings inside the fortress that you can put your teams into. So these 5 structures here are listed in descending order in terms of victory medal count for capturing them. The stronghold, that's obviously your most valuable building. This is one of the victory conditions for Siege itself. You're going to have the most defense slots there, and you're going to have bonuses in this building you can activate that are going to apply to all other buildings inside your fortress. Next up, you have your mana shrines. Those are going to be second most valuable in terms of victory medals, and here you can use your rematch scrolls in order to get additional mana orbs. Then you have your magic towers. Once again, you can activate bonuses here. This time, however, they're not going to be fortress-wide. They're only going to apply to that specific magic tower and every adjacent building to it on the map. You can also activate traps in magic towers, and I'll get into more about traps and bonuses later in the video. Next up, you have your defense towers. Once again, bonuses can be activated as well as traps. The bonuses for defense towers, however, only apply to the teams that are actually in that tower itself. And finally, last, certainly not least, defense posts. These are just single team, but you can set conditions here for the teams that can attack them and the teams that are defending in them, which can potentially be siege winning on their own. So earlier in the video, we discussed Florins and how they're a resource that can be used to upgrade the buildings in your fortress. So how does that actually work? Well, every building other than a defense post can actually be upgraded. When it is upgraded, this not only increases the number of team defense slots in that building, but if there are bonuses available in that building, it is going to upgrade the bonus categories that you can use for that building itself. Now, any building that you're going to be upgrading can only go up to the upgrade level of your stronghold. So that is going to be the limiting factor for that. So if you want to upgrade all the way for all your buildings, you have to be doing that with your stronghold first. Now, in terms of the bonus categories that we discussed, bonuses, as we saw, can be set in the stronghold, magic towers, and in defense towers. They must be set by clan leaders or deputies, and there are 3 separate tiers for bonus categories that go up in terms of their power. So we have bonus categories 1 being the weakest, and bonus categories in 3 being the strongest. Now, to give an example of bonus category 1 versus 3 for the stronghold, you can look over here. So the category 1 right there is that Talarian League and Galen Pact champions will reflect 30% of damage received. That is going to cost 7,500 orbs from the mana orb cache that your clan has. And then the category 3 version of that, which costs 15,000 orbs, is going to be that all champions are going to be reflecting 30% of damage. So a significant increase in cost, but also a much better ability. Now, in terms of another example of upgrading, you can see here, this is one of our defense towers in my clan as the filming this video. It is up to level 3, which enables the bonus categories up to 3. However, you can see here, we have donated enough Florins already to upgrade this building to level 4, but because our stronghold remains at level 3, it's just going to be 7,000 out of 7,000 until we upgrade our stronghold, and then at that point, it is also going to go up to level 4. In addition to bonuses, you can also equip some buildings with conditions and traps. As I mentioned earlier, defense posts are the only building in the fortress that you can equip with conditions. These are going to be one of defense teams that are going to be restricted in the same way that some Cursed City stages are. So you're going to have, for example, only Force champions that can be used there, or only champions from Barbarians. And if your clan happens to have some members that have rare champions like faction unity champions that are particularly game breaking, these can be really great posts to stonewall enemy clans trying to take your fortress and could potentially just win your siege outright. So very powerful, and we'll discuss that in a later section in the video. Traps are available on magic towers and defense towers and are randomized each prep phase. The same pool of traps available for all clans, and these are also selected by individual clan members as opposed to clan leaders or deputies. There's going to be 1 trap that's available per member per siege, 2 traps per tower, 1 trap per group within that tower, and these are only going to be effective on the first player that attacks that specific post. So for example, if I were to attack a post with a trap on it, it would activate on my team going against it, and then I could rebattle it and I would still have to deal with that trap. But if one of my clanmates came in and battled it, that trap would have already activated and would no longer be in effect for his battle. So now that we've covered the basics, let's get into some more advanced strategies and tips that are going to hopefully help you and your clan succeed even more at Siege. And we're going to start off by talking about advanced tactics and considerations for defending your fortress. Now, one of the first questions that a lot of clans ask themselves is, should we upgrade our buildings? As the Florins start to roll in after you've completed a few sieges, it's really tempting to just start upgrading and just getting as many team defense slots as possible. But here's the problem. As we know from the basics, every attacking clan is always going to be given enough attack scrolls to take down all of your team defense slots. So at that point, you're going to be taking a gamble on relative roster depth. So you're saying, I think my clan members can field more arena-ready teams than the opposing clan. If that's true, then by all means, upgrade as much as you can, no problem. If that's not true, then it might be beneficial for your clan to restrict the number of defense slots so that you don't dilute your champ pool and still keep really effective teams. Aspirationally, I think a really good goal would be to get to level 3 with your stronghold and most of your buildings. That way, you can at least have available categories for bonuses unlocked up to level 3. The next thing to consider for defense is strongest team placement. So, as a general rule, because the stronghold is a condition for victory for the enemy clan, you do want to have some of your most powerful teams in there. The other powerful teams that are not in there should be the ones that are going towards those conditional defense posts that we talked about earlier. Those are going to be really great areas to potentially bottleneck the opposing team, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. But for the most part, you want your strongest plat or high arena defenses with no conditions to be in your stronghold to ensure that that stays uncaptured and that the opposing team doesn't get those victory medals. Now, the next point that I want to make is about reserve team coordination. Now, in general, you want to just make sure that not everybody is setting a reserve team. You want to make sure that only your strongest candidates are going to be setting reserve teams, those that have the roster depth to support it if you are going to make use of those reserve teams. And it should never be a random thing. You ideally are going to have the coordination to have that figured out. Now, I'll maybe expand this point to coordination in general, because it's helpful if your clan has a Vlad the Dragon. Who's Vlad the Dragon? He's a clanmate of mine, and he's essentially an MVP for Siege for our clan. He's a siege conductor. He keeps a spreadsheet with every team that is posted during the siege. Before every siege, he scouts conditional defense posts and then coordinates with team members to make sure that everybody's going to be setting the best possible option there to have it be as difficult to get through as possible. Every siege, he is greatly boosting our chances of winning, and I highly recommend that you find somebody in your clan that's willing to step up and shoulder that kind of responsibility if you are going to take Siege seriously, because ultimately you do want to coordinate. If, however, you don't really care about coordination, of course, you could just YOLO teams and just see what happens, or just give a general direction like take the fortress. But if you are going to coordinate, it really helps when you have somebody that's making sure, especially during the prep phase, that everything is being done so that you can maximize your chance at success. So as I mentioned earlier, there are a few key points that if you set the right conditional defenses for, you could potentially completely choke out an opposing team or stonewall them from being able to get to your stronghold. This is the area that I was talking about. So posts 14, 15, 10, 11, 12, 8, and 7 are some of the key ones to manage and make sure you have the best possible teams in. In particular, I want to call out posts 11, 12, 10, and 15 because they are adjacent to magic towers. So you can get even more of a bonus for these specific conditional defense posts. And then finally, I'll just call out that posts 14 and 15 are the last bastion of defense before you get away from conditionals and go straight into the defense towers that then lead to your stronghold. So some of your strongest teams should definitely be located at these two, in particular 15, because of that, again, adjacent location to that magic tower. So now that we've discussed advanced defense, let's talk about advanced offense tactics. So over there in the image that you see, that is a snapshot that I took from our last siege. The little markers above the defense posts leading up to the stronghold were set by our clan leadership, and that is an effort to coordinate us without needing to go completely through Discord and just be like, hey, this is the aspirational path that we're going to be going towards when we're going to be going for that stronghold. It's also one of the shortest paths to the stronghold, which is important because it helps you preserve your teams, because as we know, the stronghold should have some of the strongest teams that the enemy clan has. You want to make sure you keep all of your firepower for that so that you can actually take it down and satisfy that victory condition for Siege. So my clan is currently in tier 6 of Siege, and we're happy there. We're not trying to push to 7 or 8. And in order to do that, we want to manage our victory points. So every siege, while we're still trying to win, we are making sure that we're not taking too much or more than is needed. So in order to ensure that, we have kind of a checklist that we go through, or a general strategy when it comes to offense in Siege. So the first thing that we prioritize is getting the path of least resistance straight to the enemy stronghold and taking it. At that point, we are assessing how well the enemy clan is doing against our fortress. If they're, for example, completely walled behind a good conditional defense setup, or if they're having a lot of trouble and losing a lot of attack scrolls and really attriting their forces along the way, then we know that we're in a good position and we don't have to push very hard for the victory. So we will take a decision point at step 3 and at step 5. If, for example, it's a neck and neck race, at that point we will pivot to take either one or both of their mana shrines, and at that point once again reassess. And if it's just an all-out to the end brawl, then we will just take as many points as we possibly can. Again, this is because we are managing our victory points and we're not trying to push higher into Siege and get tougher opponents if we don't have to. If your clan is just looking to push as high as possible though, and you're trying to get into higher tiers of Siege, in that case, absolutely go straight for the stronghold, mana shrines, and then anything else you can do to pick up as many points as possible. The next thing that I wanted to emphasize on offense specifically is to make sure you are taking advantage of the fact that you have rematch scrolls and attack scrolls. One of the things that you can do in order to maximize the value on that is to start off a fight against a specific post or team that you're going against with champions that you don't intend to beat it with. It's almost kind of like a bait champion. So what you'll do is you'll take a champion, throw them in there, and then you'll be able to scout out, are they using Stone Skin on any other champs? Do they have Pinpoint going? Magma Shield? Anything else? And then you can use that information to craft a right team to take them down. Another thing you can do is you could take your best speed gear and put it on, again, a champion that you don't intend on using in one of your actual attack teams, and then throw them against one of the teams that you're going to be attacking. That way you can maybe even gauge what the potential speed is of the opponent if you are trying to outspeed them. Now, obviously, you're going to have to do some calculation when it comes to blessings and auras and whatnot, but it is possible to do, or at least you can say, all right, this team is definitely faster than 350 or whatever it might be, right? That's a really good use of the rematch and attack scrolls in order to get the most information on your enemy. And the other thing that this can do, and this is very helpful, particularly in our clan, is deconfliction. So if you're going to be using one of those scouting champions on a particular post, you don't necessarily always have to go into Discord to look at who's going to be attacking it, because if you see someone has already used one of these bait or scout teams against an opponent, you know, okay, they're probably now recalibrating, changing up their team, and they're going to be going back in there with their rebattle scroll. So there's no need for me or another teammate now to waste my attack scroll, and then that way you're just maximizing all the scrolls that you have to take the most possible defended slots. And lastly, I wanted to just talk about a few team building considerations for your defense and offense teams in Siege. So first of all, for your defense teams, AI presets do work. So make sure that you're setting those and testing those out in places like Tag Team or Classic Arena, and then also utilizing them in Siege. The other thing is, if you didn't know, Arena auras, as of the filming of this video, do not work in Siege. So make sure that if you are going for a speed aura or any kind of aura, it is an all battle aura. And the last thing is snapshotting at the end of prep phase. So if you didn't know this, when matchmaking begins, your fortress is locked and you can no longer interact with it. At that point, the Siege game mode takes a snapshot of all the teams that you've set up in defense. That means that if you, at that time, were in Platinum Arena as opposed to Gold Arena, then that extra stat boost, that extra 3% or whatever it is going to be present on your champions going into Siege. And at that point, you could then swap gear away from champions that maybe you've specifically built for Siege. That way you can also use that gear for attacking or for whatever else it might be. But make sure to take advantage if you can. If you maybe can't even maintain being in Platinum, if you're in Gold, push into Platinum. See if you can push into Platinum enemy right before the prep phase ends, and that way it's just an extra little advantage that you can get going into your Siege. And there you have it, everybody, the official Wild Max 1 guide. basics all the way through advanced strategies for Siege game mode. If you like today's video, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any other game modes or guides or showcases that you'd like to see on my channel. Thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.